Hogwarts is full of echoes from the past. Some polite, some bitter, some impossible to ignore. But the strangest part isn't that ghosts remain at the castle, it's that after all this time, they're still here, watching, listening, remembering. At Hogwarts, ghosts are often treated as part of the background. Familiar figures drifting through corridors, classrooms, and candlelit halls as though they've always belonged there. Students barely react. Professors rarely comment. And before long, the unusual begins to feel entirely normal. But every ghost at Hogwarts was once a living witch or wizard, with ambitions, mistakes, loyalties, and unfinished concerns of their own. Some stayed out of attachment, others out of regret, and some, perhaps, for reasons they've never fully shared. Because the real mystery isn't who they are, it's what they know and why they never seem to leave. And few ghosts embody that better than the one who never quite lost his head. Nearly Headless Nick. Nearly Headless Nick is often treated as one of Hogwarts' friendliest traditions, a familiar face at feasts, a polite guide through Gryffindor Tower, and a ghost who seems far more approachable than most. But long before the castle knew him by that name, he was Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington, a wizard of status, reputation, and, by all accounts, a certain pride. His final chapter, however, did not go cleanly. A sentence was carried out and famously mishandled, which left him suspended between two identities, not fully remembered as the man he was, and not entirely respected as the ghost he became. Even now, the nickname remains, Nearly Headless Nick, spoken with affection perhaps, but still a reminder of the one moment he can never escape. He is most often found near Gryffindor Tower, the Great Hall, and the castle corridors, always close to student life, always close to belonging, and that may be the most revealing detail of all. Because for someone who has remained at Hogwarts for centuries, Nick still seems to want the same thing he wanted all along: to be included, to be recognized, to matter, which suggests that even after passing on, insecurity does not always disappear. Some concerns simply learn to float. And Nick is not the only ghost at Hogwarts carrying something unfinished, because in the quieter parts of the castle, another ghost keeps far older secrets. The Grey Lady. The Grey Lady is rarely the loudest presence at Hogwarts. She does not command attention in the way other ghosts do. She drifts quietly through towers and corridors, seen more often than spoken to. Which is fitting, because silence seems to be part of who she is. But the Grey Lady is no ordinary ghost. She is Helena Ravenclaw, daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw herself, which means that for centuries, one of Hogwarts' founders remained part of the castle's story through her. And with that connection came knowledge few others possessed. She is most closely associated with Ravenclaw Tower, though like many ghosts, she appears where she chooses, often in the quieter corners of the school where questions are less common. Reserved, distant, difficult to read. Yet beneath that calm presence sits one of Hogwarts' most significant hidden stories, because Helena Ravenclaw once took something of great importance from her mother and kept its whereabouts hidden for years. A secret so well buried that even within Hogwarts it remained out of reach, which makes her presence at the castle especially curious. She did not remain to be celebrated. She did not remain to be noticed. If anything, she remained beside the very place her silence helped shape. Some ghosts stay because they cannot let go, others because they remember too much. And if the Grey Lady represents secrecy, the next ghost is something else entirely. Because not every presence at Hogwarts is quiet. A bloody baron. Some ghosts at Hogwarts are welcomed, others are tolerated, and then there is the bloody baron. He does not drift through the castle with friendliness or curiosity. He arrives with silence, unease, and a reputation that seems to move ahead of him. Even those who do not know his story tend to understand the feeling, because fear has a way of lingering. The Baron is most closely tied to Slytherin House, where he serves as its resident ghost. He is often seen in the dungeons, the lower corridors, and the older parts of the castle, where shadows tend to gather first. Unlike other spirits at Hogwarts, he is not remembered for charm or conversation. He is remembered for what surrounds him, the stained appearance of his robes, the chain he carries, the silence he keeps. And perhaps most telling of all, even Peeves answers to him. In a castle filled with students, teachers, portraits, creatures, and chaos, that may be one of the strongest endorsements of his presence possible. Yet, beneath the fear, there is something else. Because ghosts do not remain unchanged, and the Baron has always felt less like anger and more like burden, as though whatever brought him to Hogwarts in this form never truly left with the years. Which is a reminder that some reputations are built on noise, others on what refuses to be said, and few ghosts at Hogwarts are louder than the next one, despite never needing to whisper at all. Now, it's easy to treat Hogwarts ghosts as curiosities, decorations in corridors, traditions in chains, familiar figures drifting past so often they barely seem unusual at all. But they are something else entirely. Proof that some choices, some regrets, and some moments echo for far longer than expected. Moaning Myrtle. Moaning Myrtle is often remembered for the noise first. The wailing, the complaints, the dramatic entrances from plumbing no one asked her to use. At Hogwarts, she is easy to dismiss as an inconvenience. A ghost students avoid unless they have no choice. But Myrtle was not always a punchline in a bathroom. She was once a student, young, overlooked, and by most accounts deeply unhappy, long before she became a ghost. And unlike many spirits at Hogwarts, the moment that bound her to the castle is tied directly to one of its oldest mysteries. She is most often found in the bathroom that bears her name, though she has never shown much respect for walls, privacy, or expected boundaries. Which, for Myrtle, may be part of the point, because while other ghosts drift through halls or return to familiar houses, Myrtle remains close to a single moment, not a century, not a legacy, a moment, as though time, for her, never moved properly afterwards. And that may explain why she feels so different from the others. Nick looks for belonging. The Grey Lady carries silence. The Baron carries burden. Myrtle carries hurt, loudly, repeatedly, and without disguise, which makes her easy to laugh at and surprisingly difficult to ignore. Because some hauntings are not about places at all, they are about the moment someone never truly left, and if one ghost is trapped in the past, the next barely noticed he stayed at all. Professor Binns. Some ghosts at Hogwarts announce themselves immediately. They rattle chains, interrupt corridors, drift through walls, or make certain bathrooms impossible to enjoy. Professor Binns does none of that. He simply continues, lesson after lesson, year after year, decade after decade, perhaps longer than anyone has bothered to count. He is the long-serving professor of history of magic, and one of the only teachers at Hogwarts whose greatest talent may be being overlooked. Because Binns did not dramatically return to the castle. He did not arrive with unfinished vengeance, or hidden secrets, or spectral theatrics. He is said to have slipped away in his sleep beside the staff room fire, and then simply got up and carried on teaching as though nothing at all had changed. Which may be the most Hogwarts detail imaginable. He is most often found in his classroom, delivering the same measured lectures to rows of increasingly distracted students, many of whom seem less concerned that their teacher is a ghost than they are about staying awake. And yet, beneath the dry voice and drifting routine, there is something remarkable about him. Because while others chase mystery, drama, or legend, Binns has spent years preserving memory, goblin rebellions, ancient disputes, forgotten laws, the details no one values until they suddenly matter. No one listens to Professor Binns, which may be why he keeps talking. And if Binns represents the past being ignored, the castle's strangest resident represents something else entirely, because the final presence on this list was never a ghost at all. Peeves. Peeves is often spoken about as though he belongs with the ghosts of Hogwarts. He floats through corridors, appears without warning, and has made generations of students regret carrying anything breakable. But Peeves is not a ghost. He was never a student who remained, never a professor who carried on, never a figure from the castle's past refusing to leave. Peeves is something far less tidy, a poltergeist, less a spirit of the dead, more a force born from life inside the castle itself, which means he is not defined by memory but by disturbance. He does not preserve Hogwarts. He tests it. Doors slammed at the wrong moment, objects launched with suspicious accuracy, songs composed entirely to embarrass whoever least deserves peace that day. And somehow, he always seems to know exactly where the trouble will be. He is found everywhere and nowhere in particular. Staircases, classrooms, torchlit corridors, anywhere rules are being taken too seriously. Which may be why Peeves feels less like a resident and more like a symptom. As though Hogwarts, for all its history and grandeur, cannot contain that much youthful chaos without producing a personality for it. The Baron may command fear, Nick may seek belonging, Binns may preserve the past, but Peeves does something entirely different. He reminds everyone that even the oldest castle in the wizarding world can still behave like a child, and perhaps that is the strangest secret of all. Not every presence at Hogwarts comes from what happened before. Some are created by what never stops happening. Perhaps that is the real lesson of Hogwarts ghosts. They are not just echoes of the past, but reminders that some choices, some regrets, and some stories never fade as neatly as we imagine. Which does leave one question. If you could speak to just one ghost of Hogwarts, who would you choose, and what would you ask? Let me know below. And if you find yourself drawn to the stranger corners of the wizarding world, you may want to stay a little longer. There's always more to uncover if you happen to be looking when the clock strikes odd.